The following is an exclusive presentation of JP Sports.
The 80s could certainly be called the decade of Clemson in ACC and national football circles. The Tigers opened the era with a national championship. Begrudgingly, they shared the ACC mantle with Boomer Esiason and the Maryland Terrapins through the mid-80s. The Tigers roared back with a new wave of orange with names like Allen, Flagler, and Williams to take 3 more titles. But frustrations at missed expectations quickly rose to the surface at Clemson, making the transition to Ken Hatfield's style of coaching that much more difficult. In 1991, suddenly at mid-season, Clemson experienced a turnaround where everything seemed to come together. And now, as it was in the 80s, only one obstacle remains between Clemson and yet another ACC title. Today's opponent, old nemesis, Maryland.
JP Sports presents the best in regional college football, the Atlantic Coast Conference. ACC Game of the Week is brought to you by Exxon Phase 4 gasolines. For high performance and cleaner engines, rely on new Phase 4 gasolines from Exxon. By the Jefferson Pilot Life Insurance Company. For insurance and financial services, better call Jefferson Pilot. By Coors Light, the silver bullet is the right beer now. By Delta, the airline of ACC country. We love to fly, and it shows. By Diet Pepsi and caffeine-free Diet Pepsi. You got the right one, baby. And by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. To arrange a thorough test drive, simply phone your nearest BMW dealer.
Welcome to Memorial Stadium, Death Valley, Frank Howard Field, Clemson, South Carolina. Site of today's Exxon ACC Game of the Week between the Clemson Tigers and the Terrapins of Maryland. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Martin along with Jack Corrigan. Well, the throne is there. All Clemson has to do is climb over Maryland and sit on it for the 13th ACC championship. The message that Ken Hatfield has been preaching has finally hit home.
Well, I think it took them a period of time. They struggled. It maybe really turned at halftime of the Virginia game in which they came back to tie that ball game. And Kenny is on that run again, but he doesn't want to take the credit for it. In fact, when we talked to Kenny yesterday and said, does this team finally have your stamp on it, he had a typical Hatfield reaction.
Well, I think it's got a Clemson signature on it, and that's because we believe in playing good, hard-nosed football. We believe in winning and trying to be the best that we can be. And I think that I'm happy that probably the last month this team has come around and played within its capabilities together totally as a team for the last month. Anyway, that's the thing that I'm really happiest about.
Well, if there's one guy who's really typified how this team has really upped its level, its play, it's quarterback Deshaun Cameron.
Oh, without question. When Ronald Williams hurt his knee, they needed a guy on offense to step forward, and Deshaun Cameron has certainly done that. You see his numbers over the 3 big ball games, and I think finally he has reached the point, and he said so yesterday when we talked to him, that the critics have finally gotten off of Deshaun Cameron.
You know, I knew all along that I can come out and compete with the best. You know, it's just a matter, you know, just giving me an opportunity to do that. And, you know, past couple of weeks, Coach have given me an opportunity to prove my abilities. And, you know, I think I've came out and performed to that level. And, you know, I think I've quite a lot of critics.
As far as Maryland's concerned, they are 2-7, and if you had to look at the low point of the season and where everything started to turn for them, look at the 3rd quarter of the Georgia Tech game when Mark Mason went down.
They lost their sensational sophomore running back, Mark Mason, and you can see their running game has virtually disappeared since his injury, and because of that, too much pressure on their passing game. Joe Krivak knows if they're going to have success today, they've got to control the tempo.
Well, I think the big thing is they like to run the ball, and it's going to be one of those line up and run at you. You got to force them to, you know, beat you with the pass. So I think we got to be able to just get in there toe-to-toe and do that. And then offensively, you know, we just can't turn it over. We got to move the ball, something that we're really struggling to do some things in the passing game maybe that will give us some plays. Try to keep it a low-scoring game and give us a chance to win, and then hope that they make a couple mistakes or we cause some turnovers.
Well, mistakes are things that the Clemson Tigers just haven't been making lately, Jack. They made 14 turnovers in the first 4, and they only have 5 in the last 4 games.
Well, and I think that's a characteristic, again, of how Deshaun Cameron has played. He has done a much better job of controlling the football in terms of the option game and not throwing the interceptions. Maryland, meanwhile, has had a lot of turnovers over the last couple of weeks. if that stays consistent, it could be a long day for Maryland.
Plus, Maryland has a lot of people out for injuries and other reasons. Well, when we come back, Mike Hogwood takes the fans' perspective of how big a game this is today between Maryland and Clemson. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. Maryland and Clemson getting set to go after it. And, Jack, you know, you look at the matchups with a 6-1-1 team going against 2-7. There's every reason for Clemson to be overconfident, but that just doesn't seem to be the case today.
Well, you are here on Spirit Blitz Day. It's the final home game at Death Valley for more than 20 seniors. You have a chance to win an ACC championship that you haven't won in a couple of years. Kenny Hatfield couldn't have it any better to make sure his team doesn't look beyond Maryland. They want to win the championship today. They don't want to have to win the conference crown in Tokyo in a couple of weeks against Duke.
Let's get out of the field and Mike Hogwood.
All right, Steve, thanks a lot. It's a very exciting moment down here. You can see over my shoulder a sea of orange, and one at a time, the seniors are running down the hill. They're running down it for the final time. This is a great tradition. They rub that rock, Howard's Rock, and come down. It's supposed to give them a lot of powers. Certainly today, you can really feel the power and the momentum. We had a chance to talk to a couple of these seniors about the emotions they would feel today. Rob Bodine and LaVon Kirkland, two seniors, talk about running down that hill for one final time.
Well, it's going to be real sad, and I think I'm going to take a second or two to myself when I get up on top of the hill, kind of take it all in for the last time, you know, because for sure it's my last time ever coming down the hill.
It's going to be special. I mean, it's time for us to pass the torch on to other guys to come down the hill. It's our last time. We're old heads, and you know, they miss us for a while. Then we go on and live life. But it's going to be a great time, and I think any senior who's going to be running down the hill should cherish this moment.
Well, they've all run down the hill now, and we're ready to play football. It's Clemson in Maryland, Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina. The crowd is fired up. Hope you are. We'll be back with the kickoff of today's Game of the Week in just a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. Maryland and Clemson going at it today in a game that could see Clemson crowned as the ACC champion. There are 80,000 seats in this stadium. They won't all be full, but a lot of them will be. There's Joe Kreback. It's been a tough season for him in his 5th year. Not how he had planned it to go after winning their final game and going into a bowl situation last season. Of course, he's been besieged by injuries. Key people, especially as we pointed out, Mark Mason, struggled with that injury, and Maryland really hasn't been the same since. As far as Clemson is concerned, their season has gone in the opposite direction. Second half of the Virginia game really was the turning point for them.
Well, for Maryland this afternoon, they can really play in a loose fashion because they have everything to gain by a victory. What happens, though, when you are a 2-7 ball club, Steve, is that if you fall out of the game early, it's just hard to maintain an emotional edge. So for their chances to do well, as you see Raphael Wall, a true freshman, awaiting the kick, they need to stay in the game early on. They've got to have a good first half.
Raphael Wall to receive the kick of Mr. Sauvé. Jeff Sauvé, the freshman from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. We're underway here at Clemson. Wall picks it up at the 6. There's a flag down at the 28-yard line, and he'll be tackled there by Arthur Bussey on the special team situation. Let's take a look at our true value starting lineups for this afternoon's game.
Jimmy Sandwich, the 5th-year senior at the quarterback. We'll see Troy Jackson, but also Larry Washington and Raphael Wall at that A-back spot. Whitecheck's had a good year. Harrison Thomas, it hasn't gone as well as they wanted with their wide people. They start a couple of freshmen on the offensive line, Dave Hack and Jay Dubas. Mitch Suplee, their center, and one of their captains has had a very fine year.
Penalty is going to be marked off against Maryland. It's going to be a hold on the kickoff return. And so the Terrapins will start from their own 18-yard line instead of the 28. First handoff of the game goes to Troy Jackson. Jackson squeaks his way up to the 24-yard line. Robert O'Neill, the first man to hit him. Let's take a look at the defensive side.
Headed up by Rob Boudin, who Kenny Hatfield says is having an All-American year. McLaughlin and Buckner are huge tackles. Their linebackers among the best in the country, particularly Kirkland and McDaniel. The secondary was pretty much revamped from a year ago. Robert O'Neill, the free safety, the most experienced man back there. Stevens is a true freshman and a good one.
2nd and 4, as you see from the 25. Here's Jackson. Jackson was another first down after the 31-32-yard line. And if Joe Kreback had an ideal way for a game to start, this is it.
Well, he, as we heard in his comments a few moments ago, wants to control the tempo a little bit, keep the ball out of the hands of the Clemson offense, and if they can run that counter trap action like they did right there with Troy Jackson, they've got a chance for some success.
1st and 10 from the 32-yard line. Thomas in motion across the formation. Flag on the play. Kirkland is in the neutral zone as Jackson gets up over the 34-yard line. And maybe against Clemson as they line up with McLaughlin doing the tackling.
You always make all those correct assumptions, and you give me a maybe there. I think that was a no-doubter as much as you could ever get. As Levon in his efforts to try and stop that trap action was clearly offsides. Offsides. Defense. I tell that cold is affecting my partner when he gives a maybe. Come on, Steve.
I'm trying to be doubtful. First and 5. Jackson. Time it kind of straightens up a little bit for him at the 40-yard line. Still gets out to the 41, where he's going to be very close to a first down. Ken Hatfield talks about his excellent nose guard. Of course, Rob Bodine is having an outstanding season, but he's not the biggest nose guard around at 245.
Rob Bodine is a man that really what college football is all about. I think when you look at a guy who's a walk-on from North Dakota, who's turned into, I think, and having an All-American year. And I say All-American because every team after we played him and when they look at film said we could not block him one-on-one. We had to change our blocking.
Maryland is just that far away from another first down, but Bodine is a guy, he doesn't have all the physical tools, but he's very, very bright.
He's very bright. He's just relentlessly aggressive. And it's an interesting matchup there because Rob, as you see, 245 pounds, is flanked by Princeton Buckner, who is 315, and Chester McLaughlin, who is 325. It's almost as if Bodine hides behind or beside those two giant guys and works pretty free, but he'll have his hands full with Mitch Suplee. That'll be a good matchup today.
Buckner will take over that position next year. 2nd down and inches for Maryland. Sandwich. Looks like he's got the first down, and Maryland keeps on moving. Nice-looking drive out over the 43-yard line.
This tells you a lot of what Joe Kreback and Jerry Eisman, the offensive coordinator, want to do. There's Suplee and Bodine going at a good push off the line of scrimmage by Suplee. He got some help from Jay Dubas, the right guard, as well, and they handled Bodine, and that enabled Sandwich to get the first down. If they didn't want to play close to the vest early, they would have gambled there in 2nd and short, but they want to keep it under control.
1st and 10, Maryland at their own 43. That's Badgett in motion. Play action for Sandwich, first pass of the game, and he's going downfield. He's got Kremis out there, complete. Touchdown, Maryland.
Jason Kremis, the sophomore out of Northampton, Pennsylvania, got behind Eric Jeter. On the rollout action, they picked up the blitz. Both outside backers blitzing on the play, and Jim Sandwich threw a beauty. Jason Kremis with a 2nd touchdown of the season. Great block by Jackson there to take care of Levon Kirkland, and another good block by Dave Hack to take care of Ashley Shepard. And look at that ball, right on the money, more than 50 yards in the air.
You know, Jim Sandwich has struggled at times this season, but he's looked good against people like Pitt. And that pass was probably his best ball that he's thrown all year. Here's Dan DeArmas for the point after, and Maryland quiets the Clemson crowd here at the 12:33 mark. A 56-yard touchdown pass to Jason Kremis, and the Terrapins are on top, 7-0. Maryland leading Clemson 7-0 on a big 56-yard strike from Jim Sandwich.
And let's give credit to Dave DeBruin right there with the block on Ashley Shepard. That gave Sandwich the time, or make it Wayne Simmons, excuse me. That gave Sandwich the time to get the ball to Jason Cremus.
And a happy James Sandwich. This is a Maryland team that now has some confidence. They know they can run the ball. They know that Sandwich has got the arm to throw it. Now they got to find out if they can stop Clemson or not. Maryland strikes quickly. Brett Henson with a kick. Larry Ryans and Lance Easton are deep. That's Ryans at the goal line. And Ryans is up into the 21-yard line, hit first by Mark Sturdivant. And let's take a look at that Clemson offense with Deshaun Cameron at the helm.
Tony Kennedy will get the start at fullback. Rodney Blunt still going at tailback. And Larry Ryans and Terry Smith give you good speed. Excellent offensive line. Bruce Bratton, maybe the best of the bunch. And a very big group as well on that front line.
And as far as the scoring drive is concerned, it didn't take Maryland long. The big pass from Sandwich to Cremus. First touchdown pass in 12 quarters. Longest pass of the season for Maryland. Tony Kennedy gets the call on 1st and 10 and gets out to the 29-yard line. Let's take a look at the Maryland defense.
They have a few changes because of some academic suspensions. Larry Webster, the best of the guys up front. Mike Jamalowicz heads their linebacking core. Jamalowicz leads the ACC in tackles and is 9th in the country in total tackles. The secondary has been beset with injuries as well. Ron Reagan, the strong safeties, had a good year.
Lewis Johnson, Derek Steele, and Joel Good not seeing action today. Deshaun Cameron back. Going downfield as a man complete. That's Smith. And Smith is driven out of bounds upfield. They'll call him out of the 17-yard line by Mike Thomas, the ACC's second leading receiver.
Now, this young man is going to, I think, be the best wide receiver in Clemson history, with no offense meant to Perry Tuttle. Terry Smith has a chance to really set some big numbers. He's got great speed. Bumped off of Mike Thomas there, and only because he lost his footing. He clearly had stepped out of bounds several times along the way. That's the difference in Deshaun Cameron as well. I don't think he throws that ball as well earlier in his career.
52 yards, the pass completion. Is pitched to Blunt, and he's up to about the 17-yard line. Brought down by big Ralph Orta in the middle, but not much yardage is there. And that's not what Maryland needed as far as trying to gain confidence defensively. Marone in the starting spot today.
Well, some of that, too, is the confidence that Ken Hatfield and Larry Vanderhayden, the offensive coordinator for Clemson, now have in Deshaun Cameron. They feel he can throw all ranges of passes.
Lyons and Smith are split out. 2nd down and 9. Kennedy gets a quick burst at fullback. Inside the 10. Down to about the 7-yard line. Brought down by Mark Jamalowicz, the ACC's leading tackler at 127 coming in. There's Kennedy. Kennedy gets a late start today because Rudy Harris normally would have started, but Rudy Harris missed some academic requirements during the week and thus will not start today, but will play.
You talked about a quick start by Tony Kennedy. It almost looked like he beat the snap count. That's how quickly he accelerates into this hole. Gets a good push right off the front from Stacy Seegers, the right guard, Mike Brown, the center, and Kelvin Hankins, the right tackle. Now, Brown at 255, the center's not big, but when you go to the right, Clemson's right, Seegers is 320, and Kelvin Hankins, the right tackle, is 305, so they can get a pretty good push off the ball with those two big boys.
About 600 pounds of force there. The measurement for the first down is being taken here inside the 10. About the 8.5-yard line. It's going to be shy. And so it'll bring up a 2nd down, 3rd down, and about 1 to go. Blunt and Kennedy, the setbacks. Deshaun Cameron just takes it over himself to the 6. It's a 1st down for Clemson. Follow the blocks of Mike Brown and Stacy Seegers, and so Clemson is going to strike quickly. So Clemson's game plan of control seems to go out of the window, as does Maryland. They're both going to tack scores on the board early and then probably get back to what they normally plan in this game.
So it's like, well, let's put 7 points each up on the board and start again.
That's right. Lions split to the top, Smith to the bottom. Here's Blunt. Headed toward the end zone, gets down to the 1. Ron Reagan makes the finishing stop. Drozdoff also gets a piece of Rodney Blunt.
Sometimes when you see a team in the true I formation and you get that tailback maybe 6 or 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, people say, well, you know, why is he back so far? He's back far like that, one, to get a full head of steam up, and secondly, to have better vision. And that time you could see Blunt read the opening to his left and cut back that way.
Double tight end set for Kennedy going in toward the end zone. Apparently did not get over. Jim Panagos and Mike Jamalowicz make the tackle as they hit Kennedy headed for the end zone at the 9:53 mark. There's Joe Kreback pleading for his defense to hold on, but it's going to be pretty tough in this territory.
And again, you've got a team that is averaging almost 250 yards a game on the ground, so they're pretty well experienced at banging away when they need it.
Howard Hall is in there, double fullback set now. That's ball in motion on 3rd and goal. Kennedy looks close to it. Panagos indicates no, but he got in. Kennedy looked like he got under the defense that time as he got into the hole off left guard. Jeff Flesh, Bruce Bratton, and Mike Brown clearing things out for him, and Clemson is on the board.
Well, in your final home game in Death Valley, you get your first touchdown of the season. Kennedy is a big guy at 230 pounds, and he was able to wedge his way through.
Nelson Welch with a kick after, and we are even. 9:23 left to go in the first quarter of play. It's Clemson 7, Maryland 7. Let's pause for a word from your local station.
Clemson University Athletic Department would like to remind all fans.
Welcome back to Death Valley. Clemson has evened the score 7-7 on Maryland. Tony Kennedy's first touchdown of the season. A lot of firsts. The pass to Terry Smith, the 52 yards that set up the touchdown, was the longest pass play for Clemson this year. Raphael Wall comes up and gets it and gets clothesline at about the 27-yard line. Coming up to make the tackle, Chad Wiesling had the ball, rather. Let's go to the sidelines and Mike Hogworth.
Guys, when the defense came off the field last time after giving up that touchdown, their heads were down. The offensive players all hit them on the head and said, don't worry about it. We're going to get it back. They came back, and as you saw, took it in for a touchdown. And this team is really unified on the sidelines. I'm very impressed with their attitude and support of each other, and that's one reason they're leading the ACC race right now.
They feel they have a job to do, and it's not complete until they take care of it today, and they want to take care of it today. They don't want to leave it for Duke in Tokyo. There's Troy Jackson, and he is swarmed over by a host of people. Buckner, Bodine.
There's Rob Bodine, that middle guard, who shot the gap this time. Watch Bodine slide right by Mitch Suplee, and although he wouldn't get credit for a lot of the tackle, he was the one that really forced it, along with Eddie McDaniel, who was stunning on the play. You take two undersized guys in Bodine and McDaniel anchoring the middle of that line. That's impressive.
2nd and about 11. Sandwich to throw. Throws it complete. Wide check right out to the 37-yard line. Be a nice gain on the play of 9 yards. Tyron moves on. Get on the tackle.
And what a fine catch by Wycheck, number 36 on the season for the sophomore. Look at that one-handed grab. The H-back, all he's done since he's gotten into the lineup for Maryland is catch anything that's within reach. The problem, they just haven't been able to get him the ball as much this year as they did in his freshman season.
Nice Velcro catch by Wycheck. 3rd down and 2. Jackson. Nothing happening on that side. Levon Kirkland hit him. Bodine hit him. And everybody else joined in the party. Maryland's going to have to kick the ball away.
Went to a 2 tight end set to try and spread the Clemson defense, but Clemson has such great overall team speed on the defensive side of the ball. They just outran Maryland to the point of attack.
The arm is set to kick, and speaking of team speed, Clemson's got it, and the people who will return, O'Neal, is back to return for Clemson, along with true freshman Darnell Stevens, who's one of the leaders in terms of punt return yardage. This is O'Neal at the 24. It's a line drive. O'Neal on one, Sturdivant, and brings it back to the Maryland 39-yard line. Ron Reagan makes the saving tackle. A 40-yard punt, but nearly all of it came back in the other direction.
Well, one of the worst things you can do is kick a line drive punt, and watch the speed of Robert O'Neal here. He just ran around the corner of Mark Sturdivant right there. Darren Colvin was able to cut him back inside. Reagan finished him off, but Clemson in business again.
Great field position. When we come back, score tied at 7 apiece midway through the first. Back in Death Valley, Clemson and Maryland are tied at 7 each, and Clemson has excellent field position at the Maryland 41-yard line. Steve Martin, Jack Corrigan, and Mike Hogwood in Death Valley for you this afternoon. Deshaun Cameron to a 52-yard link-up with Terry Smith in this first series. Maryland blitzing, and Hines hit Deshaun Cameron, and Ralph Orta has picked up the football for Maryland.
Well, they wanted to force turnovers, and Greg Hines on a blitz from his outside linebacking spot. Play action pass. Cameron wanted to go deep again. He was looking and never saw Greg Hines. He reaches out, strips the ball, and Ralph Orta made a heck of a play to get to that ball before Stacy Seegers did. Big break for Maryland, and that's the one chink in the Clemson armor. The turnovers, they are a -9 in the turnover ratio. They are among the worst in the country at that.
Although they've been better over the last 4 games, the previous 4 have turned the ball over 14 times. Maryland has the football at their own 47. Clemson showing blitz. Sandwich gets rid of it. It was in the vicinity of Washington.
I think that was the operative word, gets rid of it. They tried to run a bootleg action play fake, and Clemson had an all-out blitz. Jimmy Sandwich did all he could just to avoid the sack. Maryland's quarterbacks have been sacked 31 times this year, so 3.5 a ball game, and that doesn't account for all the pressured times that the quarterbacks have undergone.
They've only returned the favor 16. Thomas in motion on 2nd and 10. This one again thrown in Washington's direction, but Clemson had it covered very adequately. Ashley Shepard and Brenson Buckner also in the vicinity.
Buckner at 315 pounds runs a 4.85 40. That's almost frightening, and it enables Ron Dickerson, the defensive coordinator for Clemson, to put his tackles on what's called screen patrol. I mean, he saw screen, and he was out there as easily as Washington was.
3rd down, score tied at 7. Maryland at their own 47-yard line, out of the shotgun formation. Sandwich for Washington again. This time he threw it right at him. Penzel Jackson covering, 3 plays and out.
Great job by that Clemson defense. 2nd in the country in total defense, trailing only the 3rd-ranked Washington Huskies.
And here's DeArmas for the 2nd time today. He averaged 8 punts a contest, 75 on the season. O'Neal and Stevens are back.
Well, he needs to get some elevation here.
And Maryland needs to cover well to stop the possible return. Another line drive, Stevens. And Stevens is driven out of bounds at the 30-yard line. We have a flag on the play. Let's go down to the sidelines and Mike Hogwood.
Guys, as you have mentioned, this is the final home game for Clemson, and some of the seniors' fathers are here on the sidelines. This is Chuck O'Brien's dad, who's also named Chuck. Must be an emotional day as well as a happy day.
Happy and sad. It's his last game here at Clemson, and but we're proud of him. And I had the opportunity to come down and take some pictures of him, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy that.
Must be fun being on the sidelines. You told me this is the first time you're on.
Yes, it is. First time. Real pleasure. Such an organization. Now I know what it's like to look up into the stands and see all these people. It's great.
Another interesting note about the O'Briens, they're from Frederick, Maryland, right? Yeah. So it's a special thing today playing the University of Maryland, Steve.
Sure. All right, Mike, thank you very much. We have a face mask penalty.
So you add on a little more yardage, 15 yards actually, after the good punt return again by Darnell Stevens. There's Chuck O'Brien, the fifth-year senior out of Clarksburg, Maryland, Frederick High School.
So once again, Clemson's going to get excellent field position at their own 44-yard line. Blunt. Straight ahead, brought down by Malone and Jamalowicz, the middle linebackers. In the formation for the Terrapins. They'll have to do double duty. The people that are backing them up haven't had an awful lot of playing time this season. If you look at the Maryland defense, this Maryland team has just been beset by injuries just about at every position. I don't think there are too many positions on this club that hasn't felt the injury bill. There's Jamalowicz, and second down at about 7. Fullback on the carry. Ralph Orta stuffs it up. Orta, who moments ago picked up his second fumble recovery of the season. Stay tuned. At the conclusion of today's game, we'll be selecting the Schick most valuable player from each team.
Interesting third down call here for the Clemson Tigers. After the easy march down the field on their first possession, they have the turnover. They get it back, and they get positive yardage, but 3rd and 5 here. They've got the option side to Cameron's left, and 2 receivers to his left.
And a new center, Curtis Whitley, for Deshaun Cameron on 3rd down. Score tie. Pass is complete. That's to Bryant. At the Maryland 27-yard line, Dwayne Bryant hauls in his 5th pass of the year.
Went into a one-back set here with Blunt and Bryant to one side, Smith and Ryans to the other side, and it leaves Dwayne Bryant, the sophomore out of Tallahassee, Florida, all alone for a positive gain indeed down inside the Maryland 30. For Bryant, only his 5th catch all year.
23 yards downfield. Pitch comes to Blunt. And Blunt gets tackled by Dave Marone. What a shoestring tackle, because if Marone doesn't get him, Jack, nobody else will until he gets to at least the 10.
Well, Dave Marone and Mike Jamalowicz have a big job today because of the size of the Clemson offensive line. You're going to ask Webster and Orta and the rest of that defensive front to just try and neutralize those guys and hope that your linebackers can make a lot of tackles. They're going to have to.
4-yard gain. Cameron pitches to Blunt. And Thomas defends Blunt well enough to knock him out of the 21-yard line. Nice play by Thomas. It's a gain of 2 on the play and brings up 3rd down and 4.
Good play as well by number 58, Greg Hines, the outside linebacker, the senior out of Sicklerville, New Jersey. He had the option read there. He had the guy that had to force Deshaun Cameron to make a decision and made him pitch it into the short side of the field where there wasn't much room.
Tie ball game, Clemson 3rd and 4 in Maryland territory. It is Howard Hall, the fullback, straight ahead over the 20-yard line down to the 18. It's going to be very close. He's going to be shy of it by about a yard. It's going to bring up 4th and 1 and probably bring on the field goal team.
Well, the decision being made on the sidelines now with Kenny Hatfield. Looks like he's going to go for it.
Nelson Welch not moving. Deshaun Cameron coming back into the huddle. The Clemson crowd approves. And the Tigers feel that they can get this first down on board. Cameron to Blunt. He's got it. Jamalowicz on the flying tackle at the 15. It's a gain of 3.
Interesting play call that they go with the speed option on 4th and 1. And watch Rodney Blunt take the airborne route to a first down. He actually makes the first down by jumping right over Mike Thomas.
Great play. Interesting call. 1st and 10. Ball at the 14-yard line of Maryland. 4:09 left to go in the first quarter. Clemson and Maryland tied at 7, but the Tigers may be about to do something about that. Here's Blunt. It's down to about the 12. Hines is there. Jamalowicz, ever present. And getting up off the bottom of the pile is going to be Jim Panagos.
Watch Mike Jamalowicz here from his linebacking spot. Read the action. See the ball carrier, step up and be involved in it. He is probably going to have more than 150 tackles this year should he stay healthy for this game and their finale.
Against NC State next week. Here is Kennedy. Kennedy gets down to the 10-yard line. Sturdivant, and guess who? Jamalowicz again. It's a gain of 2 more yards, but it puts Clemson yet in another 3rd down situation.
To take it to another level for Mike Jamalowicz, who will come back next year for these Maryland Terrapins, he has a chance to amass more than 400 tackles in his career. That would mean more than 100 tackles a season. That's a remarkable number.
3rd down and 6. Clemson and Maryland tied. That's Blunt in motion. Sean Cameron to throw. He's got a man open. That is Blunt, but a little too tall with Mike Thomas covering.
That time, Deshaun Cameron got a little anxious. I tell you what, this is the exact same play they ran for the 23-yard completion to Dwayne Bryant earlier in the drive. He's got time again. Bryant breaks open late, but Bryant's open in the end zone. Bryant's in this corner. Just couldn't quite see him. If Deshaun waits one more count, he might have a chance for 6.
Out of the hold of Jimmy McLean, Nelson Welch will attempt a 27-yard field goal, just about dead center. Is up and good. And the Clemson Tigers step out in front. On Nelson Welch's 27-yard field goal for Welch, that's his 14th connection of the season in 21 attempts. And it propels the Clemson Tigers out in front by a margin of 10-7. 2:43 left to go. This first quarter of play on a beautiful day in the upstate, as they refer to this section of South Carolina.
A little bit of a emotional break for the Maryland defense that they were able to stiffen down there and force the field goal rather than giving up the touchdown. The onus is back on that Maryland offense again that started out well, picking up a couple of first downs on the ground and then throwing the big bomb. But on their last 2 possessions, it's been 3 and out both times. And so the challenge is going to be, as we look at the numbers on the scoring drive for Clemson as they move down the field and get the field goal from Nelson Welch, a 45-yard drive. But Maryland has to get a little more productivity on first down to keep Clemson out of the stunning situations where they can take advantage of their superior speed.
And when they do have to turn the ball over, as far as punt coverage is concerned, they've got to do a better job of covering punts and get better punts, as a matter of fact. They've had 2 excellent opportunities punting the ball from midfield to get proper defensive position, but they have squandered it both times. Clemson has taken advantage. They've started drives near midfield the last 2 times. They got the ball. Sauvé kicks it away. And picking it up is Raphael Way at the 18. And there's not much running room there. Making the initial hit was Butch Fuster out of Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Well, Clemson's made the determination here that they're going to have Sauvé hit those high pooch kicks, if you will, and deny Raphael Wall, who had big yardage last week on kickoff returns against Penn State, from getting much of a head of steam up, and it's worked so far the last 2 times.
There's Maryland, or rather Miami, leading Florida State 7-0. Wall is in the backfield now for the Terrapins, and he'll get the deep handoff. And he'll get very, very, very little yardage.
Levon Kirkland makes a great play here without actually really being involved in the tackle. He makes a great play as you look at some of the Tiger numbers this year and how well they have performed on the defensive side of the ball. he recognized the counter trap, saw Dave DeBruin going by. He chopped down the lead blocker, and it messed up the whole play.
Knocked him right into the backfield. Second down and about 11. Actually, probably about 12 for the Terrapins. That's Riesling in motion, and here's Wall. Wall squares his shoulders and gets out around the 31-yard line. Be a gain of 4. The tackle, Tyron Mouzon. First man there.
James Trapp, who's got pretty good speed himself, was the guy who outran Wall to the corner, but it shows you the advantage that Maryland has when they get some speed in that tailback spot. Raphael Wall a lot faster than Troy Jackson. He was able to run around Wayne Simmons and Kenzel Jackson.
It's going to be 3rd and long, though, for Jim Sandwich. 3rd and 7 at his own 31-yard line. Kramus and Riesling to the top. Sandwich to run and gotten sacked by David Davis. Actually, he got back to the line of scrimmage just barely.
David Davis, the senior out of Eastover, South Carolina, reached out with the big paw as Sandwich was going by and tripped him up. So again, Maryland has to go 3 and out. And that problem with the punting game again, DeArmas needing to get more elevation, and they need to get bodies down there quicker.
He's getting 40-yard kicks off, but the line drives. And O'Neill and Stevens wait for his 3rd offering of the afternoon. O'Neill at the 31. Still a good return out to the 43. When you can get more than 6 yards on a punt return, you're doing fairly well. A 39-yard kick. Hugh Brown on the tackle. Next week, now we've got a variety of action for you. Duke at North Carolina from Chapel Hill. I'll be there. Jack, you'll be in Columbia with Clemson and South Carolina. Bob Rathman will be bringing you the action from Virginia Tech. Check your local listings for the game in your area.
See what Clemson tries this time, whether they'll go back to their option game or again try the play action on 1st down.
Mike Brown's back in at center. Sold the fullback dive very well, but then slipped as Greg Hines came up to cover.
And they had that corner turn that time for Deshaun Cameron, who has rushed for nearly 300 yards this year out of his quarterback spot. Good block upfield by Stacy Seegers on Mike Jamalowicz.
Cameron is the 8th leading rusher in the ACC this season. 2nd down and 8. Cameron to throw. Nice ball over the middle to Terry Smith. It is complete at the Maryland 41-yard line. Ball popped loose, but it was after the play. Bill Inge hit on the stop.
Cameron taking a very deep drop and then stepping back up into the pocket. All kinds of time and nice reach back on that catch by Terry Smith, his 35th of the season. He caught 9 balls a year ago as a rookie against Maryland, so he knows what it's like to run through that Terrapin secondary.
1st and 10 for the Tigers in Maryland territory at the 41-yard line. As time getting set to run out on the 1st quarter of action. There's plenty of it. Big passes, 2 touchdowns, but a Clemson field goal is the difference. Nelson Welch from 27 yards out, and that's how we stand after 1 at Death Valley. Clemson 10, Maryland 7. Welcome back to Death Valley. Steve Martin along with Jack Corrigan and Mike Hogwood. Clemson 10-7 on Nelson Welch's field goal. 1st quarter. A little bit in Clemson's favor. Of course, Maryland getting 56 of those 65 yards on their touchdown pass to Jason Freeman. Clemson with the ball, and this is Deshaun Cameron. Ball knocked away by Darren Drozdoff. Drozdoff bats Deshaun Cameron's pass away.
Yeah, pretty good protection that time. Watch Stacy Seegers, the giant right guard who they think is going to be a good one. He steps out, and boy, did he take care of Mark Sturdivant.
Sturdivant, outside linebacker, or defensive end, if you will. 2nd down and 10 at the Maryland 41. Snap is fumbled, but Deshaun Cameron got back on it. Clemson has switched centers on each of its last 2 series. They had Curtis Whitley in last time. This time it's Mike Brown. And there was an exchange problem between Deshaun Cameron and Mike Brown. That's the second fumble that Clemson's experienced.
Well, they have 2 senior centers. Mike Brown there is actually in graduate school, received his degree in recreation and parks management. He and Curtis Whitley, the other senior, share that position. Both really see about an equal amount of time.
3rd and 13, Clemson leading by a field goal. Deshaun Cameron throws for Terry Smith. He's got him. Touchdown, Clemson.
Beat Doug Lawrence on the play. I'll just re-echo what I said earlier. Terry Smith is going to rewrite the receiving records here at Clemson. He is outstanding. Young man who grew up right here in Clemson, South Carolina. He really dekes Doug Lawrence here and fools Lawrence as to where the ball is. And look at that extension and the concentration. Outstanding.
12th career touchdown pass by Cameron. There's Welch's kick for the point after, and the Tigers now advance their lead to 10. It's 17-7 with 14-11 left to go in the first half of play. The Tigers lead the Terrapins. Clemson leading Maryland 17-7, 14-11 left to go in the first half of play. There's Terry Smith's numbers. 36 passes, most by a Tiger wideout since Perry Tuttle did it in 1981. And you know what Clemson did in 81. They won a national championship. Here's Doug Lawrence. Lawrence with a nice return out over the 33-yard line. Let's go to the sidelines and Mike Hogwood.
Guys, it was 3rd and long for Clemson. The Maryland offense had their helmets strapped on, ready to go in, and that long pass, you could just sense the air almost go out of this team here. This is an important drive for the Maryland offense, not only for the offensive team, but for the defensive team as well. They're a little down right now, and they need for the offense to pick them up.
Jim Sandwich has that duty with his team lodged at its own 33-yard line.
They have not picked up a first down since that initial scoring drive. That's really the factor. There's just too much time on the field by that Maryland defense.
Badgett wide right, Primus wide left, and Badgett's in motion. Here is Jackson, and Bodine meets him as soon as he got the ball. You keep wondering, at 245 pounds, facing much bigger people, how does this young man do it?
Well, it's a question of strength and leverage out of that nose guard position. You have the advantage against that center because he's got to worry about making that exchange of the ball to the quarterback, first of all. That if you are out of the blocks low and have good leverage techniques, I bet Rob Bodine's a heck of a wrestler. And that lets him get underneath that center and create havoc.
2nd down. Pass is incomplete, intended for Wycheck. Moves on covering out in the flats.
And Jimmy Sandwich getting a little antsy back in the pocket there. He started to feel some pressure coming in from Ralph Bodine and released that ball a little harder than he wanted to, a little sooner than he wanted to. And Frank Wycheck had barely turned and had no chance to pick up the ball.
He's looking at 3rd and 10 now from his own 33. His team trails Clemson 17-7. Clemson has effectively shut down the run. Jackson in the last 4 carries has picked up no yards. Draw play Jackson, same story. Tensel Jackson made the initial hit. It's a 3-yard loss back to the 30-yard line.
And just what Mike Hogwood was talking about, this is what happened to Maryland last week against Penn State. You get an early surge and you feel pretty good, but you can't sustain it. And when you're 2-7, even though you're still out there trying as hard as you can, the ability to finish it off, to stay with it, gets harder and harder as the game goes on.
Clemson with 10 men on the line as DeArmas gets ready for his 4th punt of the game. Stevens the only one back. Nice punt by DeArmas. Drives Stevens back to his 19. Stevens reverses field. There's a flag on the play at the 34. It's a 48-yard punt tackled by Darren Colvin of Maryland. But we'll wait to see what the flag is all about at the 35-yard line.
Well, you know it's going to be some kind of illegal block or hold. It'll go against Clemson. see exactly. Jim Knight is our referee heading up our good crew again here this afternoon.
He's listening to his crew, and with 12:31, Clemson's offense is getting set to take the field once again. They've been rather explosive this afternoon. The announcers for this game are selected and compensated by JP Sports. This broadcast is a copyright presentation. Any use of this broadcast without the express permission of the Atlantic Coast Conference and JP Sports is prohibited. Ken Hatfield looks on.
Well, you talked about the explosive nature of the Clemson offense, and particularly over the last month. I think it's that final maturing step, if you will, for Deshaun Cameron. There's the holding call against Clemson. And what that does, not only does he play better and make the reads, you get the increased confidence out of the coaching staff to try more things, to try and be more diversified, to make it harder for the defense to anticipate what you're going to do. And that's why the success has increased each week for this Clemson offense.
Well, against North Carolina State, they showed more option than they showed any other team this season. And then to amplify that point on Deshaun Cameron, he's been most successful over the air in the passing game. And that has allowed Clemson to open things up and especially go back to the things that they do very, very well. Here's the pitch. Witherspoon gets it, his first carry of the day, and he's knocked out of bounds at the 24-yard line. It's going to be a gain of close to 10.
Look at how wide the splits are of the Clemson offensive line. It really spread out the Maryland defense here. And look at Witherspoon. He gets the pitch already outside of Mark Sturdivant. Ron Reagan has to come up from the strong safety spot to make the tackle. That was a little bit of a different look. They had maybe about a yard or a 2-yard gap between guard and tackle, and it made a difference.
Rudy Harris is in at fullback.
They've done it again.
And Harris gets the call. Big opening. Out over the 35-yard line to the 36. Doug Lawrence makes the tackle, but it's a 12-yard gain.
What do those wide splits do? Well, in addition to spreading out the defense, it also gives you better blocking angles. You can see the angle they took right there on the nose man, Jim Panagos. And all of a sudden, you give the quick hitter to the fullback, and he's in the secondary before the defense can react. The defense is set up to line up based upon where the offense lines up. And if they give you a different look, you're scrambling.
2 plays, 22 yards for Clemson. They're out to the 36. There's Witherspoon again. Maryland holds this time. Panagos got good penetration at the point of attack, and coming in to help out is Darren Drozdoff. Drozdov's father, Olaf, played at Maryland, was an all-ACC star in the 50s. Darren himself was a quarterback in high school.
That was about 60 pounds ago, I think.
Second down and about 9. Clemson in their own territory. Ryan's in motion. Delay handoff to Witherspoon. Sturdivant wrestles him down along with Hugh Brown at the 40-yard line. It's a gain of 3.
Jimmy Panagos thought that Curtis Whitley went beyond the rules of the game and making the key block to spring Witherspoon on the draw play that time, and sets up that 3rd and medium that has really been a goal mine for Clemson so far this afternoon.
You mean his hands were away from his body?
Outside the frame is the word they use. The phrase they use.
Clemson is 4 out of 6 in 3rd down situations. One of those was a touchdown pass. They lead by 10, and Cameron's going to throw again. To Terry Smith, and he nearly had it. Inge covering on the play for Maryland. That would have been a sensational catch.
Got help from Hugh Brown as he dropped back. Watch the underneath coverage of number 50, Hugh Brown. As Inge came up, Smith running the deep crossing route. And see, right there was enough for Hugh Brown to get his hand up and maybe disrupt the vision a little bit of Terry Smith.
And Chuck Lynch is on the punt for the first time this afternoon. Hobson, deep at his own 21. Flattened at the 22. Ashley Shepard is the man who got him. We've got a break in the action with 10:24 left to go on the first half of play. It's Clemson 17 and Maryland 7. Touchdown touchdowns by Tony Kennedy and Terry Smith around a Nelson Welch field goal. Clemson leading Maryland 17-7. Maryland, after the first possession, next to nothing. 12 plays, 6 yards. That's a half a yard of play. I'd say, Jack, that Clemson's made the necessary adjustments on defense.
Rather quickly.
1st and 10, Maryland at their own 22. Play fake. Bootleg pass. Here is Sandwich going downfield as Prunzik out there and just overthrew him at the 25 of Clemson. James Trapp is covering on the play.
Great play fake by Jimmy Sandwich, and Prunzik just couldn't run it down.
Go
ahead, Steve.
Go to the sidelines with Mike Hogwood.
Well, guys, this is the weekend that all the bowls get finalized, and for Clemson, it looks like the Citrus Bowl. How confident are they? Here's one of the cheerleaders, Randy Owens. You may see they've all got their Citrus Bowl patches on. As a matter of fact, it looks like they're going to be playing the California Bears. But bowl bids going out, and these guys are looking forward to another trip to Florida.
What is Mike telling me? Bowl bids don't go out till tomorrow. How could he know the Californians might be there? Wow, he must have inside information.
Psychic powers. Whistles, flags, balloons, anything that Jim Knight's crew can throw out there is on the field to stop this play on 2nd down and 10.
And usually when that happens, you get illegal procedure, and that is the case.
So the Terrapins will be backed up to their own 18-yard line.
Well, everybody was on the snap count except Mitch Suplee, and if the center isn't, you're usually going to have a penalty. I mean, that's just a wild supposition on my part.
And the quarterback is very fearful in that situation.
Boy, if Maryland had been able to connect on the big bomb to Prunzik, it would have been deep into Clemson territory and a chance to climb back into this one. Now you got 2nd and long.
2nd and 15 to be exact. Sandwich scrambles out of the pocket. Wow.
Eddie McDaniel, wow.
Wow, did he close off on Jim Sandwich.
Well, one thing you learn against the Clemson defense, don't hesitate. When you make up your mind to do something, do it. Jimmy says, all right, I'm going to run now. Let me do it the way I want to go. Boom, forget it. Because you're going to get hit from more than one direction. You teach guys never give the defense a full shot at your body. Jim had that big circle with red and white stripes painted around his chest on that one.
3rd down and 13. Maryland trailing by 10. Sandwich running for his life. Chuck O'Brien is the man who flattens him at this 18-yard line. And this is quite a display of defense by Clemson.
Well, they had that chance on the great play fake in the long pass, but they couldn't connect to Prunzik. And then Clemson just takes over again with their great speed.
Dan DeArmas may punt as many times as Jim Sandwich throws this afternoon. He's on for his 5th. We still have 8:52 left to go in the first half. O'Neal and Stevens are deep. This is O'Neal. Punt and coverage of the day for Maryland. It's a 3-yard return, a 37-yard punt. Chad Wiesling picks up the tackle for the Maryland Terrapins. We've got a break in the action, and Clemson leads by 10 with 8:33 left in the half. Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. Steve Martin, Jack Corrigan, Mike Hogwood on the site for you. 17-7, Clemson leading in our Exxon ACC game of the week. And once again, Clemson is starting near midfield, leading 17-7. Deshaun Cameron has Rudy Harris and Derek Witherspoon behind him. Blitz is on for Maryland, and Ralph Porter collars Deshaun Cameron back at the 42-yard line of Clemson.
Good coverage downfield. They wanted to go to Terry Smith on a deep fly route, and Doug Lawrence had the coverage that time, and Ralph Porter fights his way through. You see Cameron, Deshaun setting up to go deep, and then felt the presence of Orta, tried to get away from him, but Ralph making his 3rd quarterback sack of the year.
And that puts Clemson in a definite passing situation here. 2nd down and 15. A loss of 5 on the play. Wasn't mean no throw, but 3 wide outs. Certainly indicates they will. Cameron going downfield. Wants Lyons. Nearly picked off by Bill Inge.
And then nearly caught by Larry Ryans as he became the defensive back rather than Inge that time. First time that I've seen Deshaun this afternoon really force a ball. This time, they had very good coverage downfield for Larry Ryans. You can see Inge sitting back there as a center fielder, and Ryans nearly came up with a spectacular play trying to break this pass up.
Tyrone Gibson is in. They take out a receiver. Davis coming out. 3rd and 15. Clemson leading 17-7 with 7:46 left in the first half. Big rush is on. Darren Colvin hits Deshaun Cameron back further at the 36-yard line.
Darren Colvin, the one-time running back. Second time this afternoon that Deshaun Cameron has gotten it from the blind side. Greg Hines forced a fumble early in the ball game. Hines was also there along with Colvin, who was playing out of the running back spot against these Clemson Tigers last year.
3rd sack of the day for Maryland. Lynch is back to kick. Mike Hobson back to get it. And it's a short kick. So a break coming up here for Maryland as we look at scores from around the country here on this busy college football Saturday afternoon. Florida State has come back from a 7-0 deficit. They lead Miami 7-10. Boston College has played well. Everybody tough on the stretch. They beat Syracuse.
Auburn and Georgia. Georgia trying to finish strongly. Auburn still in the midst of all its problems as the tapes continue to trickle out in that.
By installment.
Yes, really.
1st and 10. Maryland, best field position in a while. Their own 40. Big blitz is on. They try the screen out to the sidelines. It's incomplete for Richie Harris. Sandwich just wanted to get the ball away from the rush and maybe make some room for Harris, and there just was no time for either.
Watch this. Jim Sandwich, the only thing I can do is throw this high, and somebody on the sidelines, maybe one of the student managers or trainers, comes up big that time.
Looked like Doug Gordon, the equipment man.
Might be. Yeah. You're right, it is Doug.
2nd down and 10. On. Sandwich reads it, gets it to his tight end Stevenson, who has it in Clemson territory at the 45-yard line. Chuck O'Brien comes up to make the tackle.
Fred Stevenson, the junior out of Thornton, Pennsylvania, reads the hot, the blitz coming on. Sandwich gets it off, and Stevenson adjusts well to catch that ball. First down for Maryland, their first since early in the ball game.
Stevenson's 9th catch of the year. Moving, 6:40 left. There's Sandwich's report card. 1st and 10 in Clemson territory. Play fake. Intended for Wycheck. Covered there by Chuck O'Brien at the 38-yard line of Clemson.
Last week I was in Tallahassee for the Florida State game, and now here at Death Valley this afternoon. I got to tell you, if there are 2 faster defenses in the country, I would love to see them, because I have never seen 2 groups, not just talking about defensive backs and linebackers, I mean from the line of scrimmage all the way back, everybody can run. And you see guys like Buckner and Bodine and even big Chester McLaughlin at 330 pounds moves very well.
And next year, they'll start playing every year. Florida State and Clemson and the rest of the ACC. Here's Sandwich. Pass is complete to Badgett. At the Clemson 38, it's going to be shy of the first down by about 3 yards. Gain of 7, LeVon Kirkland in on the stop for the Tigers.
But isn't it amazing what 1 first down does for your offense? Joe Kreback sees his offense doing nothing at all. They pick up the blitz and get the first down to Brett Stevenson, and all of a sudden, the Clemson defense is a little less fast, because now they've got to worry about what you're doing, and all of a sudden your offense starts to move a little bit.
Now Maryland has to convert 3rd to 1st. Trailing 17-7, 3 yards to get the first down. Jackson on the pitch. He's going to be close, but he's not going to get it.
Boy, what a decision here for Joe Krivak. He's going to be about half a football shy of a first down. And again, it's that great Clemson speed on defense, because Jackson should have had the first down, but Ed McDaniel just outran him to the spot.
And Clemson, Maryland is going to go for it. As you would expect they would. They feel good about themselves on this drive. Coming into this drive, they were being outgained by Clemson 214 to 83. But this drive has looked good from the Maryland 40, and Joe Krivak is going to roll the dice with a half a foot at stake. Second effort may get it. A flag is on the play.
May have delay a game. I think the huddle clock may have expired before they snapped the ball.
Roy Jackson, however, is motioning toward the Clemson side of things. Let's see what they do as they unfile. Buckner getting up. Boy, it looked like they had stopped Sandwich. You are right. It took Maryland an excruciatingly long time to get their play in from the bench. I thought they might call for a timeout on that play, but they did not, and they're looking at 4th down and 5.
Watch the reaction of Joe Krivak here. He wants to say, we snapped it in 25. Boy, that's a tough penalty call. Jimmy Sandwich made a quick change at the line of scrimmage as well, which also took a little bit of extra time.
O'Neal is back at the single safety for Clemson, and Dandy Armas is on. Nearly blocked. Fair catch called for, and it's caught by Stevenson. A wide out for Maryland.
And it is interference.
It's going to be an interference call against the Maryland Terrapins. Bodine was the man who had extreme pressure on Dandy Armas.
See, Brett Stevenson had been watching the ball all the way, and he figured there was no way, ball inside the 10-yard line, that O'Neal would try and catch this ball. Never saw him there, because maybe the last 10 yards that he was running, he was up in the air looking for the ball.
And he's telling his special teams coach just that. He said he waved his arm. I thought he'd get away from it.
You know, that's that game that's played there. The guy makes the fair catch, and then at the last second steps away, and you're scrambling to try and get the ball before it goes into the end zone.
5th penalty on Maryland thus far this afternoon.
And what happens, instead of the ball being inside the 10-yard line, it gives Clemson a little more room, that it's out almost to the 15, out at the 14-yard line. And that can change your play call a little bit. Well, now they want to make sure exactly where the catch was made. It'll be closer to the 13-yard line. Get out your protractor and your calculator and your slide rule. And
after all that, the chains catch up with it, and Deshaun Cameron is back at work. 4:58 left to go in the first half. Clemson 17-7. Steve Martin, Jack Corrigan, Mike Hogwood at Death Valley. Blunt in the backfield with Tony Kennedy at fullback. Cameron throwing to the flats, complete to Ryan. Marked out of bounds at the 19-yard line. It's a gain of 6. Ron Reagan drove him to the sideline.
Some of this play calling where you see Clemson throwing the ball on first down here, in part because of their increased confidence in Deshaun Cameron and Ryans and Smith as the wide receivers. And not that Rodney Blunt has not done a good job, but they miss Ronald Williams. There's no doubt he is an explosive kind of tailback who gives you that little extra.
Say about 7 yards of play extra. He could be your passing attack. Johnny Kennedy straight ahead, out over the 21-yard line, close to the 22. He's going to be shy of the first down.
Guess who on the bottom? Number 40, Mike Jamalowicz. Aaron Drozdoff was also there to help out the Maryland. He must come home on a Saturday night and then again on Sunday morning and have trouble moving his pinky fingers because he's got to be so sore and tired.
Remember when Larry Brown used to run for the Redskins, and we used to run him 30 times a game? Larry would just stay in bed all day Monday. Jamalowicz has the same habits. Third down and about 1 for Clemson. Kennedy straight ahead. He may have it.
I don't know.
Be close.
It sure will be.
Jamalowicz, surprise, is there.
Tell you what, on the bottom of the pile, Darren Drozdov did a very nice job. It's going to be close.
Close enough to measure, looks like. 4:06 left to go in the first half. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are putting it on Wake Forest this afternoon. Let's take a look at the play. Sean Jones is going to hit Jimmy Lincoln on a pitch. Sean Jones having a great year for Georgia Tech. Look how long he waits to execute this play. Jimmy Lincoln, one of the prime candidates for Rookie of the Year in the ACC. Georgia Tech leading in that one by 7. Our score here at Death Valley, 17-7 Clemson.
You say Clemson picked up that first down by about the length of the football, and see, almost everybody signs autographs in Death Valley.
Comes an end around for Larry Ryans. Ryans carves up about 8 yards, up over the 30-yard line to the 33.
Good play there by Greg Hines, the senior outside linebacker for Maryland. He stayed at home, and there were an awful lot of big orange-shirted guys coming at him. Ryans is a pretty good escort. You see Hines there, he just stays with Curtis Whitley and finally slides off him and is able to make the tackle from behind.
Mike Thomas in the vicinity as well, but it's 8 yards upfield for Clemson. 2nd and 2. They're on 32. Blunt gets the first down out over the 34-yard line. Coming up at halftime from Death Valley, Mike Hogwood will take you through our Scholar Athlete of the Week, the best of the ACC. We'll also have our One for the Books feature and scores and highlights from around the country. Our One for the Books, a special one with some good feeling about Chip Reeves and all of the fine things he's done both on and off the field when he was at Wake Forest. Beautiful sun-splashed day, temperature just touching 70 degrees. You couldn't ask for better weather here in November. 1st and 10 for Clemson at their own 34. Kennedy, hard yards, if any. And he is stopped up by Larry Webster. You know, we haven't called Larry Webster's name an awful lot this afternoon.
But one of the things that big number 99 does there for Maryland, their senior defensive tackle, he gives Mike Jamalowicz so much space to make all those tackles for Maryland because he's got 2 and sometimes 3 guys trying to handle him. You see what he did a week ago against Penn State. While it has not gone well team-wise for Maryland, Larry Webster, who is a fine player, is having his finest year for the Terrapins.
28 tackles the last 3 games and 3 sacks to go along with those numbers you just saw. 2nd down and 10. Sean Cameron has time, hits Blunt. Blunt has the first down. What acceleration over the 45-yard line to the 46. Greg Hines in on the stop with Mike Jamalowicz.
Clock will stop so they can move the chains on the first down. There's 1:45 to play here in the first half. Clemson still has all 3 of its timeouts remaining. Good patience that time by Deshaun Cameron. Nobody open downfield, so you find the relief guy underneath.
And that was Blunt. Terry Smith is back on. He and Larry Ryans are split twins to the wide side of the field on 1st and 10. Rolling that way is Cameron. He finds Ryans. Not much running room to the Maryland 46-yard line. Doug Lawrence on the stop.
Not a smart move by Larry, though. He stayed in bounds. He didn't really get much more yardage by not going out of bounds, and Clemson has yet to call that timeout as we are down to 1 minute to play here. Watch Ryan right here. There's not much more room to go. And instead of falling out of bounds, he falls forward. Clock continuing to run. Clemson not using the timeout.
50 seconds remaining in the half. Here's Cameron to throw. Clemson leading. Pass is complete to Blunt, and he does get out of bounds at the Clemson or rather the Maryland 37-yard line. That stops the clock with 44 seconds left.
And Nelson Welch has kicked a 47-yard field goal this year, so they are about 7 yards shy of that distance, but I'm sure they're looking for the touchdown because they want to try and put this one away.
Cameron to throw. Over the middle, it is incomplete, intended for his tight end, Gibson. Stops the clock with 38 seconds left. Hugh Brown covering on the play.
And good penetration by Ralph Orta, the nose man for Maryland today, probably in part because of their concerns about Larry Webster. They have single blocked Ralph Orta, and he has had a few episodes like that here this afternoon. He has got 1 sack and again puts pressure on Cameron there.
He's also recovered a fumble. 2nd down and 10 at the 37. Cameron, downfield pass was tipped. Intended for Brian Drozdoff, got a hand on it. Just beyond the line of scrimmage, brings up 3rd down.
A big play here for both sides. This will really affect the tempo of the second half. If Clemson has to settle for a field goal try, Maryland's still within 2 touchdowns. If they can go down and score, it really changes the complexion.
33 seconds left, 3rd down, 10-yard, 10-point lead. Passes to Witherspoon. It is complete for the 1st down at the Maryland 26. Greg Hines on the tackle. Got a timeout on the field. And it's going to be called by Clemson. We'll return after these messages from the University of Maryland and Clemson University.
Some students come here to experience our teaching philosophy that extends beyond the classroom walls. Other students come just to learn from our world-class faculty. And still others come just to study with some of the most sophisticated technology available. But whatever their reasons for coming to the University of Maryland at College Park, they will all leave with the same thing: the education of a lifetime.
Rubbin' the Rock is a special part of the Clemson tradition. But the Tigers have established another tradition: excellence in the classroom. In the last 4 years, 13 Tigers have been selected to the all-academic ACC football team. Players like Bruce Bratton, Arlington Nunn, Stacy Fields, and former All-American David Treadwell have made their mark on the Dean's List as well as the sports page. This message presented by the Atlantic Coast Conference.
We're back at Death Valley. 26 seconds left to go in the 1st half. Clemson leading 17-7. They're looking at 1st and 10 at the Maryland 25-yard line with 2 timeouts remaining.
And with the 2 timeouts remaining, the ability to stop the clock by going out of bounds or picking up another 1st down, they have time for at least 3 more plays and still kick a field goal if they don't score in those 3 plays.
They don't make another yard. They're 42 yards away. And as you said, Nelson Welch is hit from 47. Out of bounds inside the 20-yard line at the 17 of Maryland. Driven out by Mike Thomas. That stops the clock with 19 seconds left.
Was looking for Terry Smith on a flag route. That was covered, so he takes Gibson, who runs the same pattern underneath, and they pick up about 9.
2nd down and 1. Cameron goes opposite side to Witherspoon, and Witherspoon is brought down inbounds at the 9-yard line. 11 seconds left. Clemson may have to use another timeout. And they will. They stop it with 11 seconds. They have 1 more remaining. Now the question is, run 1 play, center the ball, and put Welch in? Or run 1 play, go for the 6?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think you could almost run 2 pass plays and still have a chance to kick the field goal, because you have that 1 timeout remaining.
Coming up next week on most of these JP Sports stations, 3 games. You'll have your choice of 1. Check your local listings for either Duke, Carolina, Virginia Tech, Virginia, or Clemson, South Carolina. The Clemson, South Carolina start time, note that, is 1:30. The other 2 start at noon. Check your local listings for the game to be seen in your area. Cameron, though, thus far in the 1st half, 11 out of 17 and 196 yards. He has a touchdown pass to his credit to Terry Smith of 41 yards.
That's Larry Vanderhayden, the offensive coordinator, alongside of Ken Hatfield. He is the offensive line coach as well, and right there he gathered the big guys up front for some last-minute instructions on whatever blocking scheme they want to use here. Keep in mind one other element, not that we'll necessarily see that here, but Clemson has one of the nicest fake field goal plays I've ever seen that they used so successfully against North Carolina State in the big victory over the Wolfpack last month. You always have to have that in the back of your mind, that they've got that capability.
And you're looking at what could bring on that situation here with Clemson looking to, at one point, it looked like they were going to drive Maryland out of here. Maryland has hung around, and I'm sure Ken Hatfield is thinking that Maryland has hung around far too long for his comfort. Deshaun Cameron returns to the huddle. Ball is at the 9-yard line. It is first and goal at the 9. 11 seconds remain.
Oh, boy, what a break there. Jim Panagos, the nose man, in his anxiousness, jumped off sides and made contact. So that's the automatic encroachment penalty. If he doesn't make contact here with Curtis Whitley, the center, he would have had a chance to jump back, but now the ball goes down inside the 5-yard line.
We'll mark it off half the distance. And that changes the call considerably from here. That means...
Well, it makes the passes a little more difficult, though, because now there's 5 yards or 4.5 yards less room in which to operate.
It looks like Cameron's not going to change the call. He's got Paul back as his lone setback. 4 wide outs, essentially. Going to throw. It is picked off. No. Oh, it almost picked off.
Ron Reagan had a touchdown. Ron Reagan had a touchdown for Maryland. Now the clock shows no time remaining.
And Maryland has held. The Maryland Terrapins go off the field thinking it's a moral victory, but wait, the officials are huddling inside the 10.
They're going to bring everybody back.
They're going to bring Maryland back on the football field.
Well, I think because... well, I don't know. There were 11 seconds on the clock, and the clock should not have started because it was coming off a timeout, even after the penalty. Boy, Ron Reagan, well, he might have been caught from behind, but he had nothing but green field in front of him.
There's
Larry Ryans, who's an All-American in the high hurdles for Clemson, was the intended receiver.
They're talking it over with the Maryland staff. The Clemson staff is back over on the sidelines. Let's watch it again.
Ryans trying to run a turnout route, and look at Ron Reagan break on this ball. I mean, he has got a touchdown. Well, they say Ryans caught the ball.
Well, if they say Ryans caught the ball, it would seem that time had run out. There is no time on the clock, and Welch has come out onto the field to kick a field goal.
Gentlemen, we have an incompletion ruled on the field.
That's
with
why.
4 seconds. Please put 4 seconds on the game clock. Then we have a timeout. Charge to the defense.
That explains it. Apparently, initially, the clock operator up here in the press box thought that the ball was a completion, did not see a signal right away that it was incomplete. One more look at the play. Good pressure on Deshaun Cameron and Ron Reagan. I think the ball hit the ground right there and then bounced back up. Well, right there it definitely hit the ground. But, boy, Ron Reagan, because Ryan's the All-American hurdler, would have had to get back onto his feet to try and chase down Reagan. But Ron had a touchdown. Clemson. Or at least a chance for a touchdown. Instead, Clemson has a chance for a field goal.
It's going to be a 22-yard shot for Nelson Welch from the left hash mark with 4 seconds remaining. There's the kick. It is good. Clemson gets the field goal, and the first half comes to a close. It's 20-7 Clemson, but a strange finish to this first half, and maybe a moral victory for the Maryland Terrapins, who hold the Tigers out of the end zone, at least touchdown-wise. Clemson 20-7 over Maryland. Let's go down to the field and Mike Hogwood.
Here with Ken Hatfield, head coach of Clemson. Kind of crazy there on that last drive, but you did get some points out.
Well, we got some points on the board. We were trying to score a touchdown, and we made a good drive. We just didn't get a touchdown, but, you know, the clock was stopped with 4 seconds to go on the incomplete pass. So, anyway, we got the points. That's the main thing.
What your defense do after that first series? Then you completely
kind of woke up. We've controlled the line of scrimmage. The first time we were hitting, and their back was making 3 extra yards after we hit them, and we just got back to controlling the line of scrimmage better and tackling good, and we needed to do that.
All right, that's Ken Hatfield, head coach of the Clemson Tigers. His team leads the Maryland Terrapins. We're at halftime. Our score, 20-7 here in Death Valley. We'll be back with our halftime activities from Clemson in just a moment.
JP Sports' exclusive coverage of ACC football is brought to you by Exxon and its independent dealers and distributors who invite you to rely on new Phase 4 gasoline. By Coors Light, the Silver Bullet is the right beer now. By Schick Tracer, the only razor which flexes to trace every curve on your face. By Buick and your local Buick dealers. Remember Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. By True Value, got a tough job to do? They'll see you through it. You can do it with True Value hardware stores. And by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. To arrange a thorough test drive, simply phone your nearest BMW dealer.